So my proteas and my lovelies, how you doing? How you feeling? Let's get into it. First off, let me say, yes, I do believe in other lives on Earth besides Earthlings, and I also somehow feel that not all reptilians are terrible. Let's get into it. Okay, so basically, there was a woman going around, as this lady talked about, I think on her channel. So definitely go check out what's her name, Brown Bun Bun. That's where you can find her video. She said aliens are walking at the malls. They live. The aliens are already here. They're diamond ones. Zero Talks TV. I have heard that, and it says reptoid is also called reptiloids. We're in folklore. Um, I also feel like yes, they very well could be at the malls and all that stuff. Because allegedly they're have a shape shifting ability. Um, and then a lot of times when you hear about them, people get frantic, they get scared, they get paranoid, and it goes back to the same thing a video I did about don't get mad because of a spider, roach. Like when we see spiders, when we see roaches, when we see snakes, we automatically want to kill them. Oh, kill or Kalanisi them because of NGTA, because of the way they look. But just because something looks a certain way doesn't mean that they're bad. I'm gonna say that. And the crazy thing is, a lot of times they said that these people be in the government. And now we know we voted for a lot of people in our government, so that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. I feel like in every species, you have good, you have bad. So this species is no different. To be honest, I've always I feel like the big headed ones are more dangerous. Even though as a woman gives a tale about something like maybe not, but I never seen the big headed ones, but people have. And all the abduction stories you hear, those are what you hear. But I have an experience of a story that I remember when I was a child, and I don't remember whether it was, let's see, I don't remember whether um I was streaming or not, but it didn't feel like I was streaming, okay? But it was late at night, and that's a lot of times where stuff like the paranormal can happen is when you can't sleep. You'll start seeing things, and most of the times that's when thought I've seen stuff. Or okay, so I think I have seen that movie. It looks familiar, but right now I can't think of it. So I'm gonna listen to what this woman says, and I'm gonna go back into what I was saying. Give me a second. If y'all want to hear what she's saying for real, go watch a video.
Before we jump into this, okay? With today's video, this is about are they here? It doesn't have to be reptilians, it can simply be other type of aliens, okay? A number of you are saying that
I can literally jump up and down. The girls are staying in place.
Now let's also be clear that a lot of people say that these particular type of aliens are in the industry. So I I would agree to some of the stories that I've heard that they very well could be like heavenly, but I don't also feel like that they're always bad.
these are demons. Common theme I've seen in the comment section with a number of you is saying that they are demons. You're saying that a number of you are saying that they're fallen angels. A number are saying that, oh, well,
I have heard that angels don't look like the typical aliens that you are used to. Some people say that angels can be terrifying or ugly.
forms exist. The same way we have cute little puppies and sharks.
But would I say they're demons? No, I wouldn't necessarily say they're demons. But then too, I do feel like in life you get demons and angels in people. So demon and angels in animals. So why not demon and angels in aliens?
Because something is different and intelligent and maybe even humanoid looking, it doesn't mean that they are a demon and that they want to hurt you. Are some of them evil? Of course they are. They're different types, just like there are evil humans. Now, I hear people saying that, well, oh, the firmament exists.
Oh, that's crazy. For her to say the exact same thing that I said before I even listened to her, that means she's good people, right? Okay, so I will say this. So I heard the story at the gym. And if you haven't heard the story at the gym, go back to her channel. But basically, it's to sum it up, a woman encounters a pretty well known woman at that, who's very spiritual, black lady, beautiful black lady, encounters what she thinks appears to be an alien, and she's getting freaked out, which is don't get freaked out because yeah, they pretty much can probably reach your mind. They pretty much are telepathic. Um, but basically, she said that her and this woman, who she thinks is a alien of some form, are interacting, they're conversating, and then all of a sudden she looks at the woman's eyes and they do some kind of flutter that's not normal in her eyes. And so she gets like panicked because the next time she sees the woman got on shades in the gym. But I would say this, exactly that, like, if she wanted to take you out, she pretty much could have been took you out. So no, I don't feel like you need to be afraid of anything. She probably was wanting to help you because just like they're living everyday lives, like that's how they function. A lot of these people are married, a lot of these people have kids, a lot of these people function in everyday life. So it's only right for her to make conversation. Doesn't mean that she's out to jump your head off, you know. But of course, you're gonna think that if you see somebody I do something unusual, just like the woman on the plane was like that thing right there is not human or something like that. So yeah, I personally have never seen the alien type of shift in front of me, but I've experienced like I feel like with a like a demonic expression in front of me, like in a person form. Like I feel like I've experienced that. But I also, for the longest time, the craziest thing is I went back, which is vague now, but I remember seeing through a curtain the frame of something on the second floor outside my window as a child. This was a child looking at me, and it had a textured head. I could tell that, and it was on my window. Remember, I could have been asleep with no problem. Okay, and it was peering in the window as if it could see me, but it was a curtain there. And I remember I was going through something, and later actually went through something after this happened that I would never forget. But it was before this happened, it was like a peace that I felt that came over me when I was distraught. And it was a big hand on my back, and the hand was covering almost my whole back. And I just felt so much peace because I was really stressed at that time, and I was under 5. And I remember looking out the window because I couldn't see what behind me because I was too scared to look because I knew it wasn't my family. That was the crazy part. but it was like giving me like a motherly pet on my back. Like it's gonna be okay. And the hand really felt like it had like three fingers, but it was just placed on my back like a hand, a closed hand. And it probably had more. I can't really remember. I never really told this story all the way through. I've told like glimpses of it. And then I look out the window, and that's when I seen the thing outside my window, like the kid version. And it, he and I was about the same size, but it was like I said, it was at the window. And true enough, it was a tree out there, but at this time, I don't think it was on the tree. It was on the window, peeping in at me. And for the longest, I always thought this is what was on the other side of that window. And that's the crazy thing because if it wasn't this, then it was something else. But I always, for the longest, thought this is what was outside my window. And it was almost as if there was a kindred spirit. But now that I think about it, the thing outside the window seemed to have more of a friendlier aesthetic to it and was kind of small. So maybe that wasn't what was outside my window. But whatever was outside my window, definitely, and what was ever paying me on the back was definitely not human. And then the next day, of course, I asked my parents, did somebody come into my room? And they were like, no. And the crazy thing is, the window that was, um, I had saw the little thing peeking through was outside somebody else's window because me and someone else's window was connected. And there was that person awoke and started acting out of the norm, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I mean, so I don't know if they saw it or whatever, but somehow they woke up and they were in my room. Um, so yeah, and then a little bit after that, my parents woke up too because they heard us storming or function around. But I won't ever forget how that person acted that night right before that because it was kind of weird, if that makes sense. And that's the only part that I didn't understand because it's like, why would that person act like that when all this was going on? Was it something that was making them act like that? And I will say this, it was a bit of a sexual nature the person was acting. And luckily, my parents, like I said, woke up before, and that person got back up and ran back to their room. And both of us, like I said, were young at this time. And that had never happened before. So I thought that was weird. And yeah, even to this day, if I could explain what happened after seeing that, it's something that I did not want to see happen. But yeah, especially for somebody that I was related to, like, no. And now that I think about it, that wasn't the first time from that person that they tried me in a sexual manner. That's the crazy part. And because I had just got through talking about, I'm sorry, I'm connecting some dots here. I had just got through talking about the fact of something has that I felt was demonic had claimed, felt like they had felt claimed to me at a younger age. And it jumps like body snatcher. And I've interacted with this thing. And that would be the, and I was talking about how maybe it's a form of a spiritual husband, so maybe that could be like a form of a demon. But when I was, like I said, was on my back, it didn't. But maybe that thing in the window that was looking at me had felt some kind of claim to me. But it was definitely like a kid version of them, which is weird. And before this, I was not even, I can't really say what I was gonna say. It was just weird. But so it's just a vulnerable moment. But yeah, I have definitely been tried by a family member. And now that I memorize it, that was, and I've also said like serious relationships where I haven't really found serious love. And I was like, well, maybe that was like a form of an incubus, succubus type thing that maybe attached me when I was younger because I haven't seen them since. And but I have not wanted to see them since because there was a time like in my teens or early 10, 11 where I was like, look, I don't want to see none of this stuff that I'm seeing. You can only imagine. And I stopped seeing it because free will. If I didn't want to see it, I don't have to see it. So if you're a person that constantly sees these things that scare you, you can always wish it away. If I'm verbally saying, look, I don't want to see this, and you won't see it because it happened to me. And at that time, my mom was like, look, you can, if you don't want to see it, you don't have to see it. Because I was seeing, thinking of my parents, like paranormal stuff and what I thought. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And now it's kind of pissing me off because some of the stuff that happened with that same person years later, they tried me a couple times. And then when I think about it, I was talking about how I feel like it something has been following me and it gets in people. And at the time, since it was somebody that I knew in my family, I wasn't thinking like, oh, it jumped into this person. I thought this person was just weird because I'm your family member, but somehow you have this weird. But like I said, it wasn't just them. It would happen with other people to where they'll start off liking me, and then when I start liking them, they'll act different, and then we end up not being together. If that makes sense. So, damn, that makes sense. But I really can't even get into it further. But if you read between the lines, maybe you can. But okay, I would say no. That's all I'm gonna say. But let's listen to more what she's saying and skip a little bit further. But damn, just open up some dialogue. And then when you think about it,
Do you $300?
about the industry and what goes on and the stuff you hear in the industry, that makes a lot of sense. And later on, I feel like I was even supposed to be given to that situation. I really can't explain it. Or at least had been one of the people that was kidnapped and trafficked or whatever. And it didn't happen, thankfully. And that's a story I gave about that too. But, and that's a crazy story. It's not on my page anymore. But maybe one day I'll tell all the weird ish that's pertaining to this that I'm summing up now that maybe not, maybe in a book, maybe, I don't know. But that's crazy. Now that I'm thinking about it, but it's making sense now.
$500? Or even
People got me messed up.
Capabilities, super strength because they're not human, even though they look human. And if you watch the film, there's a certain scene at a dinner table where you realize, oh, they were already here because they were on the radio. But it was a signal that the human we can't pick up on. So they were already here doing this, but people
So the crazy thing was, is that I always thought that the thing on the other side of the window was the child or whatever was behind my back. Now that I'm thinking about it, shoot, I don't know what that was. It could have been the thing on the outside of the window projecting itself into another form or whatever. Because I never turned around until it like left. But like I said, what happened after that should have never happened. So, and I wish it hadn't happened because I didn't want to see all that and experience all that. And it was weird. It was overly weird to say the least. So, and I feel like that was my first experience with possession and just didn't know it at the time because it was such a young, in a young vessel. But at the same time, I also have had demonic possessions in young people as well too, with similar situations allegedly, in my opinion, that talk to them to get to me. So yeah, I do feel like demonic possessions can be real because of my experiences with it. But what do all they think? Are they aliens? Now I'm thinking maybe in some form, but it's not even necessarily that. I just feel like when you deal with another species, they have a different agenda than what you have, right? So it's like you may think something is weird and outlandish, but to them, it's maybe normal because they're not human. So yeah. So if it pisses you off, maybe it's supposed to.
everywhere. And remember that there's so many different types of dragons. There's lightning dragons, fire dragons, ether dragons, earth dragons, so many different types, and you notice that they're attached to a certain universal element. This is a common thing for dragons, is to be attached to a certain element and provide that energy for certain civilizations and people or beings that need it. Now the last one is archangels. These beings are very interesting because they are like the police of the universe, and they make sure that the structure of reality maintains itself.
And I believe those entities are called the Draconians. And so if we're talking about dragons, I do see like there could be a similarity.
They do whatever work necessary to make sure that the universal plan continues. So this means they have access to all densities, and they work on all densities in different ways. And you already know they serve source, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, the greater energy that we all are. They serve that. And people got to stop fighting about what they look like, because they could look like this, they could look like this, they could look like the bottom, like anything, but overall you know it's them because they have this large, bright, powerful ass love white light energy. They could be ascended souls, which are
And the crazy thing is, speaking of that, I swear to God, the thing that I felt like that was behind me, I definitely felt a, what is it, motherly slash angelic thing behind it. But what came after that wasn't. Okay. But that thing had already had left. But I feel like if it was really angelic, it wouldn't have left. But then too, sometimes God or Spirit allows you to go through things to make you stronger. I feel like it did make me stronger. And I don't really hate what happened because we were innocent bystanders. But it definitely, in my opinion, would have not have been what I would have expected from the presence that was behind me. The whole time I never put two and two together, I'm thinking that these things were here to comfort me during my time of challenge, even though what cane could be a form of comfort when people think about it, but oh man, I just thought about something else, but anyway, that is nothing that y'all understand. But that's crazy. Cause like I said, it was of a sexual nature that I saw this person do and try to get me to participate with before my parents had came. But before that happened, it was going a little weird before they. So, but like I said, I didn't know what was really going on in this at the time because I was like probably maybe 3 now that I think about it. And the other individual I think may have been 4, 5, something like that. So they really probably wouldn't have been able to explain or understand what was happening, but what they was acting was kind of like, sure enough, something could have took their body over because they was like they were acting in a sexual manner, but they were kind of like aggressive. With like they knew what they was doing, if that makes sense. And I really can't get into it because it was only like I said for 2 or 3 minutes before before people next door stirred, but it was definitely something that I had never experienced, wasn't really sure about, and I was like, how they know what this is? You know what I'm saying? How where have they seen this before? But I just knew that the way they was acting is probably something they seen from like a older parent or something, because I had never seen it before. But for some reason, I kind of knew what it was, if that makes sense. But let me know how y'all feel about this situation. And speaking of that situation, there's good and bad in all things. And I do feel like sex is a form of stress relief, is a form of relief help. And I feel like it is one of the things that have comforted me throughout the years. But when I was so young, that was not one of the things that I would have said, oh, give me, sign me up for that. You know? And especially from who it was coming from, that would have been the last thing on my mind. So they may have meant well, but shoot, they was definitely going about it the wrong way. Cause it was getting into like incestual stuff, if it makes sense. And we don't do that over here. We don't do that over here. It was crazy. And I could, I really just had a revelation just making this video. I really could go into a lot, but a lot was answered for me just doing this video, and it's just crazy. So just know that if you have encountered this kind of stuff, that you definitely have a calling over your life. And even though I didn't understand that at the time, I feel like they meant well. But it didn't come in the package that I wanted it to, if that makes sense. So the stuff in the industry, I'm sure they mean well, but it's not coming in the package that we're used to. So, and since they said the angels saw people down below and wanted to, y'all, I'm getting into some crazy stuff. I might as well keep going since we're here. I might as well keep freaking going since we're mother freaking here. Cause it, the crazy thing is, They said the angels did come to earth to mate with humanoids that they saw was beautiful. That's what they said. Well, let me tell you some stories, right? I have encountered situations where it was a time where I was just exploratory, I use that word. And I had this thing where I just want to see the size just because. I mean, they all look different, they all got different sizes. So it was some people that I interacted with, and I possibly could have went further. Remember, I said it was almost as if I had a spiritual husband, or maybe that thing on the other side of the window, or whatever. Which, in my opinion, was a child version of them itself. But them too, they're light years ahead, so that thing could have been 100 years old. Who knows? But let's see. And I couldn't see the face because I didn't turn around, and it was on the other side of a curtain. The thing behind me was I didn't turn around, and the other thing was on the other side of a curtain. But like I said, they definition of time is years ahead of our definition of time. So that thing could have been 100, but looking like a child. You know what I'm saying? There's things that be like ancient. So when you think about that, it makes sense because, like I said, I always felt like something had for a claim to me, or either I was given or had claimed because I had gave another story of like a possession. And since we're talking about them, these things could be demons, maybe because I think this is I've experienced possessions with people in my life and didn't really know how to explain it. So that happened with the actually I'm gonna just be honest, it was with the sibling that had tried me then and later on again. But I feel like that was a possession. But at the time I didn't know what it was. And during that time that I already had started let me see. At that time I wasn't masturbating or self pleasuring, but years later when I did, I was young, like maybe 5, 6. And then, which is weird, another thing that's weird, but after that, that happened to me, and other things happened to me. But it wasn't really like all the way, it was more like an introduction, like things I would see, people around me, if that makes sense. It was just playing like weird. But I won't forget, it was also interactions with, like I said, it was a time I felt like at 15 I almost got kidnapped from a Bible Bowl, and I told that story a while back, where someone brought me to a abandoned shack. But someone who brought me was a family member, and they weren't in their right mind. Okay, and we were in the middle of nowhere, and we was like hours away from home, if that makes sense. But the person was acting weird. Okay, and then there was some encounters with some dudes. Okay, and remember, I said I just wanted to see packages, and that was it. I would have probably went further, but our packages was just too much for me to endure, in my opinion. And maybe not for y'all, but in my opinion, it was too much for me to endure. So yes, these things are intelligent enough to affect the way others interact with you, in my opinion, which is a form of possession, in my opinion, and it's the money because you thinking it's the person the whole time something that took over them because they are low minded to break your either break your heart, to stop you from liking them because they have attachment to you, so forth and so on. So yeah. So I seen this one package. It was in like one time I was just looking at it. The funny thing is it looked to be, now that I think of it, it can I feel like it can stretch members. Cause now that's why now I be like, I don't give me nothing big. I'm okay with 6, 7. You know what I'm saying? I'm just got a little curve. Because Now, hear me out now, because it's gonna make a little sense as I get into this. But if you want to turn off, feel free. But I'm just telling you my experience. So I was like in my 20s, and I was just like, I would tell people that I would oral cavity, right? And this is what I would do to be able to see. So I was about to oral cavity, and this dude, he had to be when he pulled it out. Like I said, I don't. I feel like somebody had helped stretch it because to me now, I was saying ain't no mother freaking way, and it was probably 13 in size, and it was like standing straight up, and I was like, hey, at that time. And the funny thing is, I was so, and that was my first time seeing something that large. And I would never expect it to come from a person, not even know they can get like that. And and no, I wasn't going there. But I told this person that I wanted an oral cavity in my mouth, right? So the funny thing is, after I had, so I started thinking about doing something more than oral cavity in my mouth aspect, but they, the thing was musty. And even though it was, I felt so bad that I even tried to go ahead and go through with it. But I never talked to that person after that for real. So that was their experience. That was just too much going on. So now that I think about it, they could have made the stink happen. Because sometimes smells can happen spiritually that are not really there. But when I smelled that, I was like, mm-mm. And there was another situation recently, which is crazy. Now that I think about it, there's another guy who tried to talk to me. And for some reason, I smelled his butt. And I was thinking to myself, oh no, you know. And he swore up and down he had just took a bath, that it wasn't him. And now that I'm thinking about it, well, dang, maybe it wasn't. Because these things play tricky. So I don't talk to people. And so that was that situation. The stink, the length. And it could have been just my eyes. That dude could have been 8. Who knows? But shoot, I saw 13, 14. I was like, no. The next time that I was like trying to oral cavity, y'all gonna think I'm lying. That's why I said these things can stretch ish. Cause baby, and and the reason I know that they be jumped because I was actually talking to somebody about what I'm about to tell you, and they were saying this ish was normal. Ain't this ain't normal, baby? I went to uh, a triple store one time. I'm speaking in codes if you didn't figure that out. And I seen this member. It was a toy, the size of, because I'm looking at the side of an armchair of a couch, the size of a arm on a couch, and thicker than my arm in the store. And I was saying, ain't no freaking way. Who's getting that? Who's buying that? But I've seen videos. People actually use that. I mean, almost the size of a head wide. And so that's beyond me. I'm not. I am not. But so yeah. So I'm up here trying to tell somebody I'm an oral cat, and I've been knowing them off and on for years, and they weren't ugly. Neither one of the people I'm talking about were ugly. It's just that I just didn't see them like, nothing. To this day, the crazy thing is, I bet if I called them now, they'd probably be like tripping because they probably don't even know what I'm talking about. Because like I said, I think it can mess with your what you see, perceive, and what you hear, what you smell. That's how gifted they are. Because I promise you, this person never, this is not a big person, never gave third leg. Never. And I would look, but I never like look for real. But I mean, but one day I came to their house and we was planning on, and like I said, allegedly somebody may have had claim to me at this time, right? In another dimension. So I'm up here trying to, I'm up here about the oral cavity, you know. I look out of their pants is hanging out what I used to see in the store. But this person is black. The thing I saw in the store was white, of course. It was a toy. I said, I know you mother freaking lying. And keep in mind the earlier years of my journey when I did try to interact with a male. Sadly enough, I felt nothing. Even my first time felt nothing. But I, like I said, started masturbating early. But yeah. So that went on for 10 years, pretty much. So that's another reason why I was trying to, yeah, see some stuff. So I kid you not. When I think about it, it was coming out there, the zipper. It had to be, like I said, I'm trying to think of a size. You know how a core water bottle is? This thing was probably an inch wider than that, or maybe half an inch around the size of a core bottle wide. And the length of it was, now that I think about it, it was giving third leg. It was laying across the bed. And I'm asking this person, what the freak did you just, what is this? And the explanation they gave, which don't make sense now, because when I think about it, it wouldn't even fit inside of a pump. But this must have been that thing talking to me. I don't freaking know. It was just, it didn't happen. But this thing was, baby, 3 feet, 3 feet coming out of a zipper. I say, you, that's why I be running from Big D's now. I say, you got to be kidding me if you think something about to go down. And far as the oral cavity, baby, I can't put my mouth. It wouldn't even fit. Okay. I need to call that person. I wish I had their number still. I think I know their name, but they probably won't even recall it because stuff be happening, and I feel like it be forms of possessions because ain't no way this dude was maybe 6 feet, 5'11". They looked like they was about 170 pounds. Ain't no way that was coming out of them, but it was laying across the bed. And I was thinking to myself, what do you think I'm about to do with this? So another form of this, the actual thing that they be on. So, and at that time, I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see, was I a virgin then or not? I don't remember. I think I wasn't. Okay, because I lost my V card officially when I was 21. That was that time. There was another person in another city. Me and that person were just cool vibing. We would go to poetry night from time to time because they would host a poetry thing. So one day they was like, you can come over. I'm like, okay, cool. I come over and I kid you not, bro. This person was about the same size and everything. I wasn't thinking nothing of it. I I promise you, the same thing happened. Unless they was stuffing their pants with this toy, it couldn't even get up, baby. It was 3, 4 feet, 3, 4 feet, just hanging thick. And I was like, what the freak you think I'm gonna do with that? Same scenario. Cause baby, the thing won't even fit in my mouth, right? They was like, can you oral cavity me? At least. Cause I know it's kinda, I'm like, okay, I'm trying. It can't even do that. So now that I think about it, it may have been that entity doing that because these people don't seem to have had that at all. Because I would at least seen them sagging, limping, or something. It never gave that. So I think this thing put it in my head that that's what I was seeing. Because ain't no way they thought I was about to do anything with that. So I say that to say this. I've had some weird actual experiences. Okay. And I've had people that really cut for me, did things like to get me and talk to me, like they switch up. And I feel like it could be claimed to the fact that this thing may have claimed me then or before I was born or whatever. And another crazy thing, I don't know how weird this is. I don't even know, right? Because I'm not, I hope nothing happened. But I remember my aunt, even though it could have been possession with her too, saying it, because I don't know. Because like I said, it jumps spidey's when it deals with me. But, and I have said things in the industry and I've seen things shift in the industry as well. But my aunt told me that when I was a baby, I had discharge. I don't know what that means. Okay, so I felt like I had that divine coochie, because I do be getting these dudes sprung. That's what I thought it was. I don't know what else it could be, but that's what she told me. She's like, "Do you know that when you was a child, baby, you used to now?" That's very weird to me. I never had a baby, so I don't know what's normal, but that's what she told me. And knowing the experiences I had at 3, the experiences I had at I'm trying to see, a weird experience around 6. I had a weird experience around 9. Like it would just keep like it was weird. So and then when I got into my adult years, those two weird. Okay, and like I said, even the thing where I almost got kidnapped by this thing that took me into was trying to take me to a shed, but I escaped a lot of abandoned building in the middle of nowhere. So when I tell you that these things are something else, these things are something else. And currently I have I feel like some dealing with gang stalking, but at the same time it can really just be them keeping an eye on what I got going on. Because the funny thing is, one of the things I know realized I was either being gang stalked or something is because some reason when I would post on my social media, you know how you can see who view it. I would see like these porn sites, these women with no clothes on viewing my page, and it'd be like 25 of them, or 9 of them, or 10 of them. I thought that was weird, but once again, it's part of that. So just know that if you're being gang stalked, or if you are having a hard time when it comes to relationships or sexual diversion or whatever, sometimes it can mean that you could be connected to that lineage. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're all bad, but because I also have had people do me wrong that I've dated and they've ended up in the hospital. I, I had a best friend I used to ride for, and she kind of did me dirty. She ended up in the hospital, almost passed. I think she may have had lupus or something, but I'm not sure. And we used to be tight. Then I had two ex-boyfriends of mine that drove motorcycles. Both of them flipped their motorcycles. Ended up in the hospital. One was in amnesia, a coma for a month. I didn't know because they told me, because we remained cool after that, the dudes. And one of them scraped their body up so much or whatever, and they called me and told me about it. So, and I've had people that piss me off disappear. Like, so in that sense, you could be like, okay, they ride for you. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like they may not mean no harm, but that's just where they come from. But to us, you may think, oh, that's the money. If you do anything sexually perverted to a child, or put any incestuous things going on or whatever with a child, or you make a penis 10 times the size that it's supposed to be, like perverted, we can't relate to that. But if they have the ability to do that, and their child is 100 years old, they see our child, they thinking the same thing. It's not the same. It's not the same. So that's all I'm gonna spill on that. And this is too much tea as it is, but I'm gonna end it there. I'm not saying I'm gonna answer any questions that y'all may post, but feel free to post any questions. But that's my experience with the alien world. I always felt like they were powerful. I always felt like they were could be dangerous, but I also feel like they can be good people too. So, yeah, go check out that video as well, and let you know what you think.